Okay, evening everybody. It's the November meeting. Cameras on, don't forget. Any apologies?
Yes, apologies from Edwin Badman and Steve George.
I was just going to say from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louise Seymour.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Nothing from county, nothing from district. So, any declarations of interest? This could be a good meeting. Minutes. We have your minutes for last lot. We happy? Position heal myself. Right. Public participation. No, I don't think so. No, for the time being. Matters arising. Blackford Village Hall.
Just to say, Chairman, that following our last meeting, we did write a letter to you wrote a letter to the Chairman of the Village Hall Committee, thanking them for coming to the meeting and asking them if they will reconsider their decision to lock the gates.
You did all get excited about that, didn't you? Didn't you?
No.
Didn't you? I thought you were excited about it.
What we did.
Yeah. The idea was, oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. The idea was you all outside of it, and if you had a contribution, we wanted to comment. Then you would, it's Alec drafted it. Sorry about that. Alec drafted it. It was me trying to do anything to it with gilding the lily, so I
You signed it.
left it well alone and just signed it. But basically, well, Alex, you wrote it. Can you remember word for word?
Thank you for attending the meeting, explaining the rationale behind your decision to lock the gates. The Parish Council have asked me to write you to express their regret at that decision and ask you to reconsider it.
Exactly that.
Something like that.
We haven't heard anything.
No, we had sent off about 10 days ago.
Okay, well, just to say, I actually went today to pick up, and of course it's shut, so they're using the lane. It is so dangerous. It is now really dangerous. A big tractor came up while we were waiting on the lane, and there was the one, so we're, if you, there's the car park. Yeah, but there, and then there's that one. So we're waiting up here, and the kids are running across this road, and the tractor came up, and he came up full pelt.
You're obscuring his driveway.
And you know, the kids were running across the road. I'll tell you what, it's
Yeah, fine. Good point. Well made. Thank you very much. We'll have to watch the space.
yeah.
Car park lighting.
Yes, I've had a word with our electrician who's coming in, supposedly he started this week doing the rewiring, but he hasn't. He's tied up with something else, and he's going to give me a price now for the low-level lighting in the footpath. But I'm still waiting for that. So no update really.
Steve was hopefully going to do something.
He sent me an update this morning saying he's meeting the new traffic engineers tomorrow morning, Lady Catherine, somebody, I can't remember her name, and then we'll walk around the village together with Polly. So that's it.
No Steve, so we won't have any following matters.
That's what it was.
Right, okay.
He's meeting the engineer tomorrow, yeah, discuss the white lining and all that.
He was going to have a think about cameras, wasn't he?
That's coming in later on.
That's coming up later, isn't it? Right, financial matters.
All the books balanced again, Chairman, this month. If I could have two numbers to sign, I'd be very grateful. Ricky and Mike. Of course. Yeah.
And can I introduce Kirsten Rushby.
We come as a pair.
Yeah, okay. And Hannah Burridge.
Yeah. We have a charity called Community Council Rural Somerset. been going for, I believe, just over 90 years now. So we have a long-established relationship with Somerset and the services that we've been offering over the decades. So really, the point of attending this meeting is to give you a brief overview of the different services that we offer and a more kind of detailed service of my work and of Hannah's. I am a village agent, and at this table, how many of you have heard or come in contact or aware of village agents?
Heard of.
Yeah.
So you're fairly kind of... So I won't go into much detail then, because I really don't want to take up any more of your time. And I think what Hannah is doing is kind of new and possibly therefore if you know what I do...
No, we don't know what you do. We've heard of the village agent, but we actually don't know what the village agent does.
Right, okay, so my role is to... I am part funded by the lottery and part funded by Axbridge and Wedmore GPs, as well as the Cheddar GPs. I get referrals from a range of sources, including GPs, occupational therapists, adult social care, and a good percentage of self-referrals as well. I tend to be working with people that are facing difficulties in their life, whether that's through ill health or lack of employment or housing or financial, and I go in there and I support these people on an individual basis to access the right type of services and support them with that access as well, because that's quite often an issue. Currently, I reckon I probably have about 20 clients that I'm currently working with in the Wedmore area, and I have 2 of my most complex clients work in this area as well. I think actually 2 of the most complex clients as well. So affluence doesn't necessarily mean there's not a need in that community. I've got some information here that I can give out to you. Now these I normally give to my clients, so you can take one if you want. Have a read on the back, it says what I do, and it also says the areas that I cover, and it'll give you an idea of just how wide my patch is. Please keep them if you want, and if you know of somebody that you'd like to pass that on to. And then I've got some cards here that I can give out, and if you just keep these for your information kind of long term, if that's okay. So I sort of pass these around.
Leave them with me.
Yeah, is that okay?
Thank you.
If I pass these this way, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll hand these out at the end of the meeting.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. I work with a range of different services. So I work with quite often with micro providers, integrated rehabilitation teams, a huge range of individual fire service. It just depends really. Housing just depends really on what the issues are. The process usually involves me getting in contact, or they get in contact with me. I have a telephone conversation which lasts anything from 10 minutes to half an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, to just get a feel of the issues, and then I go out and do a visit, and these visits can take anywhere between an hour and 2 hours. I spend quite a bit of time with them on the initial visit, so I get a really good picture and idea of the situations that they're facing, and often give them time to really unpick what's going on, and also I often identify other issues going on that they may not have initially presented with. And then I go away and do the background work, make the referrals, make the telephone calls, and usually, if it's not too complicated, I will get back to them with a telephone call a couple of weeks later just to confirm that everything that we've discussed has gone through, that they've received, referrals have been processed, that somebody's contacted them from another agency. On the more complex case ones, obviously I will have to go out and do follow-up visits and maybe coordinate multidisciplinary meetings, or a whole range of issues. What I am finding more and more though is that as services are being rolled back, and this is the statutory services, so talking police, adult social care, mental health is a massive one. That they are expecting, and I say that word with total understanding of what that means. police, adult social care, mental health are expecting communities to pick up those pieces, and they're quite often coming to village agents, people like myself, and saying, can you find, we're not going to do this anymore. As I mentioned, I've got two of my most complex cases at the moment, and one of which I am engaging with a neighbour and some of his contacts and the church to support this, the couple involved. And then I have another case as well where I have approached Cheddar Lions and the Rotary, and I'm waiting for both organisations to get back to me. I spoke to Rod, who I keep calling Chris.
My wife.
For some unknown reason, it's just logged in my brain. Yeah. So poor Rod, forever known as his wife, Chris by the village agent. I spoke briefly to Rod about this, and I haven't had any, and they've not come back. But I have a client fairly local to this area with a hoarding issue. I'm trying to find volunteers at the moment to help this gentleman. He has been involved in mental health services, but is in a place at the moment where he's very kind of willing to address the problem. He does care for a partner that has disabilities, but at the moment there is no caring agency or no other professional that will go into the dwelling to provide any additional support. So you can see we've got a bit of a catch-22 situation going on here. And I did speak to Rod and sort of say, would it be possible to bring this up in this meeting to maybe ask whether you have any contacts yourselves that might be willing to basically come and knock in and help clear this house out. It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. I've been saying that for decades.
When you're looking to do it?
As soon as possible. The thing that I've used with the gentleman is that wouldn't it be nice to be able to have Christmas dinner in your kitchen? Because at the moment you can't even get to the sink. Never mind sit at the table. It's I'm really careful about giving too much. He was actually a very private person.
Sorry, Neil just said to me someone who might be able to help. I don't think is appropriate.
Right, okay, that's fine. I mean, you should all have my contact by the end of this meeting, and if any of you can think of anybody that might be willing, there's some heavy duty work to do, and there's also some cleaning to do, so there is a combination of activities. It's because, in fairness, it's a combination of things. It's a community, it's a shame that this gentleman's got into the situation he has, it's due to his mental health needs, and it's a shame that we don't have the services to support this gentleman anymore, but there just isn't any other way other than looking at the community at this present time with services as they are. And that, if I'm fair, is my day-to-day job, and
So it's just you on your own, really?
Well, yeah.
There's a team of village agents. So all across Somerset we have currently about 15 village agents, and we're trying to increase that number. A lot of GP surgeries are now funding or co-funding village agent posts. Majority of the funding is from the big lottery. Some parish councils have funded their own village agents. They have a dedicated village agent. And that's something else that we're looking into exploring more, especially in areas we don't cover, because we often get calls from those areas saying, can you help? And we haven't got the staff or the funding to do so. And the village agents do everything from supporting community groups getting off the ground. If there's lunch clubs for the elderly, it's particularly looking at those vulnerable and isolated people that really don't have the means to access information, and that's where the village agents are invaluable. And in the last year alone, our village agents have saved Somerset £2.5 million just from taking referrals off the GP's backs. And overall, our overall saving of about £5 million just for these 15 individuals that go into homes across Somerset and just help with fuel poverty. If someone can't afford oil, we've got an emergency grant fund that we can access and get them food, get them oil, so no one's left without, and it's just getting in the door to a lot of these people, because a lot of people are very proud and don't say I need help, but the GPs can sort of spot people, if you like, and put them our village agents' way. So this is, one example of many. Community transport's another big issue across Somerset, so village agents have been very heavily involved in that. On our website there's all the listings of all the VAs, but Kirsten Carries covers the this area.
Searching now as well. Yeah, you're reading the list where I cover. Yes.
What's the likelihood that Wedmore Parish Council will be asked to support, as in financially, an agent? I know currently you're being funded by Cheddar and the doctors. Is that something that's going to... Because we'll have to look at that for future finance meetings and stuff.
We've had brief discussions, and this is very sort of not official at all. We're looking to the future, obviously, when the big lottery funding runs out, because it's become such a vital service across Somerset. If we cannot guarantee the funding in the future, we have to look at other ways to raise that funding. So we're looking at sort of crowdfunding methods across Somerset, and we worked out there's so many hundred parish councils across the county. If each council could put in, say, £300 annually, that could support the service no end. And it's not a massive amount of money, and it's up to each parish council how much they can contribute. But really, and that's something we'll probably be looking at next year. It's nothing, that's an imminent thing. But if they did, and every parish council contributed, the coverage we could do would be phenomenal, and the people we could help.
Just to say, we run a Tuesday club here.
Oh yes, I have the emails.
And it would be good to have these leaflets and cards available for our clients.
I only heard about this a couple of weeks ago, and so I wasn't aware of it. I mean, my patch is really vast. I go from Ashcott to East Huntsville all the way up to Shipham. So
we have a Tuesday club. We're now full. We've got 25, and we've got people coming from Cheddar. But that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because it dropped down. We only had about 14, 15, and we were actively looking to, to boost it and to get more people coming. And we're all going out for lunch on the 28th to the garden centre and they're having a Christmas lunch in December. And it is, they really do enjoy it, and it's good fun because everybody else enjoys it, all the volunteers do. But there again, it takes about 30 volunteers to do that every week.
It's very much relies on that kind of support. There is a fund called Transform Ageing, I don't know if you've heard of that, and it's a national scheme that's being rolled out at the moment, and Somerset have been chosen as one of the sort of spearheaders, if you like, of the scheme. There are some funding available within that, and it's about, ageing in a world where a lot of people are staying older for longer. We're all living longer these days, and it's about how you want to live in older, in older years, and how what people want, from their retirement years as well. And really there's some social enterprise elements where people are coming up with inventions and creations and things that will help people. And then there's the social aspect of it, of what do people want. And I think that's more important in a way, because it is those elements that are so crucial.
Yeah, you could, if you ever get a chance, come and visit us.
Well, I will. I tend to be quite busy on Tuesday because I'm tend to be over in Axbridge, and I know that my calendar's been quite full over the last couple of weeks, particularly this week. But my intention is to definitely come over, but I'm mindful as well that you are full at the moment, and that there'll only be referrals that will come from me as I bring.
Well, we are, but we can say we're full, but we can always squeeze in another one.
I really appreciate that, and I will, and I'm mindful of not overloading some of the really kind of precious. Fantastic community groups that we've got out there as well. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware that we've also got sort of Singing for the Brain coming into Axbridge as well, which will be alternate weeks from the Axbridge one. So that will be a new service.
So do you have it every week on a Tuesday?
I thought it was every fortnight, and then they were going to alternate them so that they don't clash. I think that was what I read in the email. So.
Can I ask, do you get most of the referrals from the doctor?
No, it's a very mixed bag actually. I'd say it's about 50-50. I mean, I'm surprised at how many self-referrals I get, and I think that is just generally word of mouth, and I put things in newsletters and stuff like that, articles in newsletters.
And also we're rolling out community agents as well now, and they take their referrals.
Community?
Agents, so to complement the village agents, they only take referrals from GPs in adult social care, so they'll be dealing with that element to take some pressure off the village agents, but there's a lot of crossover as well.
And then the third strand, so you've got the village agents, the community agents, which are sort of more complex, and then the third strand is the carers agents, which we've only just introduced, and they are specifically for people that are caring for partners, wives, husbands, children with sort of disabilities or long-term health needs. So we're looking at really sort of making sure that we target the support that we do quite accurately.
And we you might have heard of Compass Carers before, so they had the contract previously, and we've taken on that contract now, so it's called Sunset Carers Service. And that they've just been in post about a month. The website sunsetcarers.org's got all that, our local. You have one for this patch if you like, so everyone's got a local.
Her name is Jackie, and I have her details if you want that. What I also have as well, which I'll hand out now, is the kind of village agent roadshow, but which is in Bridgewater, which is the nearest one for this area. It'd be great if we can help promote this. The idea being that you would get to sort of find out about all these new services that we have. So it's quite an interesting time for our organisation. There's a lot of development going on, and a lot of new services for people to get their heads around, really. So if I can.
You want us to promote you?
Well, promote, support, refer as well.
Help out if you can.
Help out if you can. I think that's what in the short period that I've been working and doing this role, I'm seeing more and more is people, GPs, adult social care, just turning around and going, well, can you just see if there's somebody in the community that can help with this? Okay. And I was very successful last week. I managed to get a lady with severe anxiety that won't leave her home, and therefore has got health issues and has not been able to attend the hospital or any GP appointments for the last 2 years, and his health issues have built up. And I managed to find a volunteer for her within 24 hours to take her to these appointments. So finally this lady will be able to access the health services that she needs, and hopefully having a dedicated volunteer that she can build a relationship with, this volunteer will also sort of build up her self-esteem and her confidence, and maybe over a little bit, with the volunteer that I talked about, maybe over 6 months' time, and we could look at encouraging her to go and engage in sort of wider activities as well.
Do you have a reservoir of people like that? Yeah, that's what I thought you were.
No, I mean the reason it was one of my close best friends that took on that role, and that was the only reason that my family don't live anywhere near me, and there's a reason why that is.
Kirsten, do you think it would be helpful to explain about the micro-providers who aren't volunteers? Just
So
explain about them.
I mentioned earlier on about micro-providers. So we don't manage this service, but we draw on them very heavily, and more in our role, we're finding that individuals within our communities are relying on them more heavily as social care is rolled back and harder to access. So micro-providers tend to be, in my experience, ex-nurses, ex-nursing assistants, healthcare workers, mental health workers, a whole ream of people with a social care background. They become sole traders, so they have a business in their own right, and they do their own accounting, and they provide services to individuals in the community, from anything from sort of companionship right through to palliative care. So that includes things like shopping, taking to appointments, helping in that bed in the morning, getting them to hairdressers. It's just a huge range of people. What the issue is though is that the concern is, and sometimes the only barrier is that quite often there's client that I was working with today, she said that she only has a spare £20 a week, which would really only give her enough time for 1.5 hours a week of a micro provider. So they do charge, and they charge anywhere between £12 and £16. So this is, in a sense, private healthcare. The advantages of it is it's very much tailored to the individual person, and the individual person, the one that needs the care, kind of dictates the shape of that service, when it occurs, who it is with, what times, and what goes on. So that, whereas in the past you may have had somebody come in and say, oh, we've been told we've got to get you out of bed at this time in the morning, you need to get in the bath, and then I need to be out here in 45 minutes. This is a lot more flexible, and it also means that you're working with the same individual hopefully for the duration of the care need, and that you can build up quite a positive relationship with that person, and they understand, how your house works, that you like your shoes being taken off, that you like your tea in a certain way, and all that, the sort of personal, the added value stuff that you would not necessarily get with some of the bigger providers, the way you've got different individuals coming in and out of the house. So they at the moment are a huge army of people. I looked at the microfiber list today, and it's on a spreadsheet, and I think you've probably got about 10 people on each sheet, and it's up to 41 sheets now, so there's over 400 microfibers working across Somerset, I think, at a rough estimate. So there's a lot of changes going on in terms of how we support our communities, or how our what more vulnerable members of our communities are being supported. Hannah has a very different role from I do, so it'd be really nice if there's still time for Hannah to have an opportunity.
Keep it going, sorry. So the other half of the business, if you like, so we've got our carers, community, village agents, is the community involvement team, and we work closely with community groups, parish councils to a lot of the time it's finding, creating the housing needs surveys so you can access the Theale money that comes from a building. If it's section 106, there's different routes into it. I can't remember off the top of my head what Sedgemoor has signed up for. I think there's a still agreement, isn't there? Yeah. And with all the new houses actually being planned around, without having housing needs surveys and your neighbourhood plans, it's getting, you're not in the local planning legislation, you're not there to access the Theale money, so it's whether you've got those in place to actually access the funds, and it's a lot more money from Theale than it's section 106 as well from buildings, so that's good. And what we do is provide the consultancy side of it, so we would do all the consultation with communities, gather that evidence, write the report of need, and then that becomes part of local planning legislation, so it's very important work.
We're doing the neighbourhood local plan at the moment, and we've got a group doing that. And obviously, if we get our neighbourhood plan through, then we will get a bigger slice of this.
That's it, yeah, perfect. Some people don't need so much our help with that. It's more on the consultancy side that for getting the consultations in, and the way it gets funded and our time gets funded, if you like, is through awards for all. So we would you're a member of CCS, Wedmore Parish Council, I believe, so you're on a discounted rate of £34 an hour, and we go for the awards for all funding. That funds our time to support you, so actually it's at no cost to you. We make sure we get that funding in place, for whatever work we do with you. So there's always means and ways of covering our work within your bigger projects, if you like, so it keeps the costs right down across the board. And obviously other projects we do is help you find funding for projects that you've got going. I spoke to Polly briefly about the park behind the post office. My background was I worked for local authorities when we had the Play Builder Fund, so I managed a £2.5 million pot that developed parks across a borough. So I've got a lot of experience with not only building parks, but also in finding funds to match funds and pull it in, and also how to consult properly with the children as well. So I worked within Children's Services at the time. But, and getting a very meaningful report on what you need, rather than, you know, from a very adult perspective, it's easy to say, oh, I just need to swim in the slide, but there's ways of doing it, and there's ways of asking as well. That it's not enough to say, draw on a piece of paper what you want, because a kid hasn't got the scope to know what's out there and what could be an amazing play space, so, and what's inclusive, and you can make it natural and fun, and, you know, all sorts, but yeah, and, you know, support for finding funding like that, and you know, project management as well. So, and then my other hat at CCS is graphic design and marketing, so I do website and you know. But again, that's a service that I can offer if it's needed. Got them to pass on?
All right.
So we'll pass
Yes,
on.
very much.
That's all my contact details on.
Do we have any questions for these two ladies?
Incredibly informative, but I'm really glad you came.
Thank you. I mean, please don't hesitate to kind of contact us on an individual basis. And certainly if you have any, or aware of any volunteers or anybody that's willing, I mean, it's a huge ask, but I wouldn't ask it if I didn't need it. It's not a want. It's, yeah, it's a significant difference.
So if somebody were to volunteer, say, to help this particular person with their clearing out, then obviously would you be there with another professional, or would you be there just you and me?
I think the way that I would want to work it is because he has got a mental health needs, and although when I went to visit him, he was in a really good place, quite happy to show me around. The way that he reflected on his own situation, I felt was very healthy, if that could be. So he said, you know, I'm really embarrassed by what's going on. I really want to be able to address this. I just don't really know where to start on, you know. And he was saying, you know, but as with many hoarders, they're quite obsessed with recycling. So there was a conversation about, well, it's very difficult to recycle if you can't get to your sink. So we need to be really we need to get to a certain point where you can recycle effectively. I felt the conversation was really very positive, and I came away, and I really enjoyed his company. I really enjoyed the gentleman's company. I did meet his partner. I think what I would want to do is, I think realistically we would ideally need sort of 3, maybe 4, because I don't want to overload the gentleman, and it's not a big property. But it does need a kind of a big push of almost like a day to get a lot of the stuff out, and then we can start kind of cleaning, and you need to see that difference. When I said, oh, well, I think this is how I might be able to make it work for you, you kind of winced when I said about 3 or 4 people turning up. But I appreciate that. There was a huge pride, and I think it's about sort of, if you put yourself into your, you know, we've all made mistakes in our lives, but quite often we've managed to do it very quietly, and nobody else has really noticed that much. But when you have to engage with strangers and they're kind of coming in, then it becomes a really personal thing. So it's about treading very carefully with this guy. And so I think what I would want to do is to take maybe one of the volunteers up to meet him, and then maybe gradually sort of build that up. But
well, I will volunteer for this one because my background is mental health nursing, so I feel it's unfair.
Well, I don't think it's about being fair or not really.
No, but you know, amongst the group here, I've probably got, you know, a background in it.
Really
so I can give you a day. Okay, I can't do it open-ended, but I can certainly give you a day. So if that starts the ball rolling, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would be there. I mean, I don't know how much I can be there without getting because I'm not supposed to do any of the delivery stuff, but I think I might be able to.
Well, I think when there's you need to hold the client's hand as well.
Yeah.
There's other people there.
Involved. And I wouldn't, you know, what we don't want to do is be too gung-ho and then
be very overwhelming if 4 strangers turn up and start
randomly
hoofing stuff out. So
yeah.
why don't you and I go out and meet the gentleman so he knows one person at least?
And that's what I was thinking of doing, and then you can feed back and we can make a plan, but it needs to be a plan with. And when I turned up there, when I got to the gate, I mean, he came out to me when I was parking, and then when we got to the gate, he said, "Do you want to go to the cafe down the road?" And I was like, "No, it's okay. I'm fine here." So he you know, you can understand. I mean, I'm sure you can understand, but I think it would make a massive difference. I also need to sort of just go back to him and keep him informed where we're up to. He did say, and I did get his permission to bring it up in the meeting, but he did say, I'm really concerned that everybody's going to talk about this in the pub. So please, please, if I could just ask that one thing. I'm sure you wouldn't anyway, but I just want to, you know, that's how deep his pride is, I think, you know.
Can I just ask you a quick question? If we're using volunteers, if they're not, as it were, officially trained, and there's 3 cases in newspapers today of people who've made mistakes with people who have either mental health difficulties or caring, and they're, you know, the money involved in suing is unbelievable. I just wondered if somebody went in and helped wherever and to get rid of some stuff, and then somebody decided that something went, how is the cover, what would the cover be on that?
I think we need to, that's the conversation that we would have initially with the gentleman, in understanding that, you know, there is no opportunity for litigation if something does go wrong, and likewise as a volunteer. I mean, and underneath that umbrella, you know, that sort of very, I guess, gentleman's agreement, which I'm sure, you know, we also have our own insurance policies.
We do, and we work closely with Spark and engage with the volunteer sector within Somerset. So they've got policies in place that we can use and tailgate on, if you like. We work very closely with them. So even if it means becoming a member of one of these organisations for free, it becomes, you know, you've got the backup then of the voluntary sector sort of services.
And I mean, we have to be...
Well, it's a good point.
And you have to, and you have to...
severely mentally handicapped son, and he's now in care. But you know, when he went with a share for family, the setup of that was really very complicated and very long. And we were just sharing him, as it were, the care. It was wonderful. The whole thing was absolutely lasting for 37 years. But it was, you know, it was wonderful. But every so often there was this review of, you know, if they left the gate open, who was responsible? If something went missing from the house, who was responsible? It was, you know, I just wondered how.
Yeah, it's a kind of risk assessment that you need to do. And I think that's why it'd be great. I mean, I'm really grateful for Judy to volunteer that, and we can both go up together and make that assessment. Yeah, quite often.
We get DBS clearances as well for someone that's doing it long term with people as well, to make sure. You know,
I mean, I mean, what I would like is just, well, in my head, it's just a couple of days of a hard graft, and then I will keep. And then what I think I would try and do is find somebody to, like a micropilot, to go in once a week and make sure they're okay, maybe support them with just kind of cleaning inside, you know, just that follow up and make sure it just doesn't deteriorate again. So that is in my head how it looks. Whether it actually turns out that way, I don't know, and I'm quite happy to be flexible, but I mean, quite often as village agents we are just presented with these quite complex problems and told to try and find solutions to them.
Sorry, Liz. You know, we've got a little bit more work to do yet. Thank you very much for your time and coming in and talking to us.
Thank you so much.
No, it's okay.
And just from Blackford Park perspective, because obviously my daughter's at sexy, so I completely sympathise with. Luckily she just started getting the bus, but when my middle one goes up next year, we're back to the loop or the park situation. Has it been tackled from an accessibility point of view in terms of disabled access to the park? Because if it's blocking access, and is there a right of way within the deeds?
There's no way to get through disabled access.
So that might be one angle. And also, is there a right of access in the deeds to the park across the land?
We don't know if it's in the deeds, we haven't looked at the deeds yet, but they reported that the committee came last month and said that they found a letter from 1983 or 1984 where there was a gate put into the swing park, and they said that one of the conditions that they agreed to when that gate was put in was that there was going to be access permitted to the swing park. And there was some caveat on that, provided didn't interfere with the activities of the village hall, something like that. I haven't seen the video yet, but I'm waiting for the video to come out so I can exactly what to say. But yeah, that's certainly an issue, because what they've done, of course, is they've closed off access not only to the school mums, but also to everybody who wants to use the park, able-bodied or disabled.
That's it.
And it seems to be in breach of an agreement, a prior agreement.
That was my tuppence anyway, that's the only thing I thought of. Thank you for that.
Thank you for your time, very much appreciated.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
You've got my telephone number, and
Yeah.
with Julie, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. Really, really, really appreciate it.
There's declaration D.
Thank you. Bye.
Delivery of issues in the village?
It was just a quick one, really. Well, I was hoping maybe to have more said about this, but obviously David Huxtable said a few meetings ago that basically the council won't clean out any gutter drains unless we specify. And is it something that we ought to be looking at for the future, if not starting now? Because there's already water coming past your house, isn't there? All down, it goes down Dando's or down Gunnings Hill straight into the village.
But they cleared that.
Have they cleared it now since
Yeah,
recently?
Yeah, they did it not too long ago, and it's back again.
That's what, yeah, but this is because he said there's a route that they will do regularly, and then there's some that they do. But exactly, this is what I mean, and he said that if there was some sites that we specified that were an issue, he could then get that on a rota, and then if there was then one-offs or whatever, we then thought a certain area might require once a year or twice a year, something like that. Then, but without us sort of having a mindful eye, because it's one of those things we can all sit here now and we're not going to remember where we. But when you drive around the village, you think, oh, that drain's bubbling up, or there's a lot of water holding here, or something like that. Like I said, it's more probably for another meeting or even a month or 2 months' time that we can start getting a idea together, because basically it's going to, there's cutbacks and cutbacks coming, and it's not going to get done.
No. So are you going, if we see anything, we report it to you?
I don't mind, I can collect it, because I've seen several already, but like you say, if you drive past it and then 20 minutes later something else happens, you forget. So let you have multiple people or someone, at least if there's a list of some sort,
Okay.
I did report an issue this morning about the brook which got a blockage under Guildhall Lane, goes under the road there. Two ladies who cut their banks back, so the place is full of rubbish, and so I reported that through this morning to Mike Bennett, who looks after that.
I mean, because it's one of those things, it's never caused an issue, but back 18 months ago when everyone walked the brook, it was noticed that there's a gutter drain at the bottom of Sand Hill that's been overrunning for 10, 15 years probably. It's only going 20 yards down the road, but if the next drain blocks and it comes across the road, you have a freeze. It's progressive, isn't it? It can't be doing the road any good. And actually now the one at the top of and the one at
get a good response to it.
and the one at the top of the hill is now it's started running completely downhill from I don't know where at the moment.
So if everybody
can
have a little look, around,
I think, like I say, it won't be a month, 2 month thing. It's not a. It's only when it rains, and luckily at the moment we haven't had a lot of rain. But if we don't move with it, it'll be another thing. That'll be next September, and
we'll be raising it.
So when we notice it, we tell Rod. Is that what we're meant to do?
That's fine.
When we notice these things, we just tell Rod. And they don't make a note of it. And then
Give it to Ricky, because Ricky's going to collate them.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, I'll give you email to me. Big message. I'll probably not get back to you.
Okay, thank you, mate. Cheers for neighbourhood plan?
Yes, just to say everything's going ahead for a week on Friday. Hope you've all had your leaflets through. I mean, really, most of the things we've been doing has been leading up to this. You know, we're also, as you noticed, there's going to be sessions in here as well, so we're trying to make it more accessible for everybody so that people that are working. There's a Saturday, there's one in the evening, there's one in the morning, there's one in the afternoon. So we're just trying to make it more accessible and advertise it as much as possible. So
Well done, you.
everybody's supposed to have had one of these through the post.
Yeah, we get one. I was.
Yeah, we had one.
And you haven't. And you haven't. And you haven't.
We should have had that.
Somebody did say it came on a Monday, which is not a good day because it comes in with all the sort of
Rubbish.
junk mail stuff. You know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah, I got it
Yeah.
on Tuesday with the junk mail, yeah.
Yeah, but that would be a thing that it gets thrown out. Well, we had supposedly, like before, one to every household in the BS 28 in area. So, pardon?
Plus Panborough, isn't it?
Yeah, plus Panborough.
Yeah.
It's on both sides of the paper and it's also laminated, isn't it? I mean, it's a very
Yeah, we've-
impressive piece of paper.
We've got one, yeah, and we've got one of them, there are
Yeah,
signs up around the village.
It's in size.
So if anybody, you know of anybody who hasn't heard of it,
Bring it to their attention.
bring it to their attention. I did check online before I came out, and I think it's not on there. Right, you get them out.
Right.
We have got a Facebook page, but we've only had it like 3 or 4 days. So I'm still in the process of trying to get the leaflet on the Facebook page, due to the fact that I can't do it.
Sure.
Yes, she will, and we were going to do it this afternoon, but I didn't have time.
Charlotte's been sharing both your page and the Wedmore Parish Council page.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, but if it,
That's
and then I looked on the Wedmore online, which is the yeah, and it's not on there. This leaflet isn't on there.
Okay.
So I
Well,
need.
maybe because the chap who does the IT has been in hospital with a broken leg.
Have I got his film? Is it?
Yeah.
You should have.
He's up on a walker this morning.
Okay.
He's not allowed in the house, he can't do stairs or anything, he can't drive.
Oh, he's got to get up fit Friday and Saturday. We're going out.
Yeah. Can we move on to the next issues and questions raised by councillors, please?
Yes, what's happening, Barbara, the pavement outside the George? I mean, it goes on and on.
On and on.
Months and months.
Yeah.
Tessa's involved in it, wasn't she?
Yes, it's environmental health people are dealing with it now. It's out of our hands, it's central.
Tessa?
It's nothing maybe to do with Wedmore.
Environmental health officers in Central were there last week and were taking photographs and they are dealing with it. I mean, they've got the enforcement procedures.
Yes, they have.
But there's a dispute over who's responsible for it. I think that's the issue. Not straightforward.
No.
Any other?
Well, Laura's not here, so it won't come up, but have we actually heard anything more about the playing fields? The £20,000 we spent?
No.
Shall I
You're
say?
Well, they haven't spent that money, have they?
Did have, a lot, a fair bit, but anyway, Neil, tell us.
Well, I don't actually know what's happened with the 20,000, but I spoke to Pete Brown and asked him to approach the Parish Council to do another update with regard to what is going on.
Because I was in that Somerset playing fields, and if they don't get a move on with it, they'll lose their money that they're going to get from the grants that they've applied for. It's as simple as that. The time.
I think they are aware of what the timeline is, and they've had a few changes in the committee. So
It's because they raised it with me. That's what I was going to have as well.
but they are on the case.
Okay.
So we're doing an update for Pete Brown. So
Big Brown, yeah.
Yes.
Anything else from anybody? Other issues, questions? Right, correspondence. Everything?
nothing exciting on that. Chairman, at all, really.
Request for a meeting about highway issues from Woodley Parish Council.
Yeah, that's been cancelled. They did suggest a date. Steve George was going to go on January 8th or something, I think it was. But that meeting's now been cancelled because a lot of people can't make it, so they're going to come back with a fresh date. But Steve George is intending to attend that meeting.
Just out of line of interest, what were the highway issues they wanted to talk about?
Same as we've got in Cheddar, with Wedmore, with HGVs.
HGV business, okay.
So it's just up Steve's just upstairs.
Yeah, they got a new big depot of containers put there right on the pump there.
Right.
Just to say, I didn't bring this up when I was talking about the neighbourhood plan, but I think this is the time to bring it up. There's this bit about the Hinkley Sea.
Yes.
Did I explain it?
No, you didn't.
Right, well, I've been talking with the neighbourhood plan, we are, part of the proposed objectives is to propose that we support a cycle path to the Q6, to Blackford. And I've been speaking to Tessa because Tessa has been doing some work quietly, and I think that's how she wants to keep it, to get most of the people on board, and she reckons she's nearly there, getting everybody on board to get a path running through. Now, I noticed, well, it was brought to my attention by Charlotte actually, because the Hinkley Point C have got what they call mitigation grants program, and it's grants for if your community has been adversely affected by Hinkley Sea. Well, I maintain our community has, because the cost of our buses is rising and the amount of buses that we've got available is decreasing, because they're paying their outrageous wages to the buses and the bus companies, so we can't get buses at a reasonable price. So we need things like cycle paths. And there's a meeting in Brentnall next Tuesday, and I'm going, and so's Tessa. And anybody else who wants to come will be more than welcome. Just to sort of find out exactly and see if we should be approaching them for a grant to go towards our cycle path.
Can I fill you in a little bit as well? I've been also dealing with Tessa for the last 2 years, and what we've been feeling is that we didn't want to go to the county council for help, because they will then insist on all sorts of expensive ways of doing it, and then we'll find we can't do it. So what we are really thinking of doing is just to ask the farmers if they will let us have the necessary amount of space, just to put a fence at their side of the road, in their field, with enough space for the cycle path, and that the cycle path would just be a very simple thing, which would be laid down with this wire netting is all right. You know, in these temporary car parks where you find this netting put down, that we just put that netting down, because if we, as I say, if we go to the county council and ask for all this money, we won't get it. But if we can get it in a simple way like this, I think we could get the money locally. That just fills you in a little bit of what we're thinking.
Well, yeah.
Has the landowner's been approached yet?
Yes, they have been approached, and
What's the
I must say,
Very positive.
it is very positive. There's one person, well, there are several people who really, really wanted to go ahead, but there is just one person. But this person has been in the nigger in the wood pile for the last 2 years anyway.
Way before
Yes.
I ever got involved with this, I held a file for this particular document, this particular exercise, and I handed it over to Tessa when she started campaigning for being the MP. And at that point, and we must be going back, what, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. At that point, every landowner had agreed, with the exception of the people who owned a small orchard.
Yeah.
And I think they live in Weston or Burnham or something like that. And the proposal at that time was just to buy the small orchard, to make it work. But everybody else was in favour. I don't know if that's still the situation, is it?
Well, no. I mean, it might well be, but she also is saying, well, we'll just go around this neighbour, and then the neighbour will regret that he didn't actually let them come in front of him rather than go all the way around. But I mean, it's also the other side of the road that really.
Well, there is still the school crossing issue there, isn't there? If
well, no. You see, the side that I fancy
It's the left-hand side.
is the left-hand side, because a lot of those people are very
Tessa would have sway there.
What?
Tessa would have sway there.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but she has, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter, she's got sway, thank goodness. But there's one person who's also got some pieces of land, and he's willing for us to go along this land, and then up his field, to avoid going across David Sisson. David Sisson will not give in, obviously, I mean, he's got a house
Yeah,
on
I
the
know
road.
what you mean, yeah.
But we can go up the field, up Ian Levy's field, and then hopefully, we really want to go across that little lane. Because if we go across that little lane, it comes out just above the school.
Yes, very, very good. Yeah.
But one of the problems there apparently is that this man on this corner applied for permission to remove his caravan,
That's right.
and it wasn't allowed.
That's right.
There's some sort of
That's
problem
right,
there.
yeah, that's right, yeah. I was talking to the man only the other day, and yes, he, I don't know if it's got any bearing on it at all, but...
I think it has. I think it has. I don't want to be quoted, but I think this is one of the problems.
Were you then thinking of going up through Rush Hill Lane to the other one, and then down through Wells Way?
Yes.
Taylor, past Ron Bowles.
Yes.
That's what they're talking
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Yes, that's what we're talking
What's
about.
wrong with
Yeah,
Little
but I mean,
Island?
you surely...
What's wrong with the paved road, Little Island?
Right?
Well, there's a paved road that goes virtually the same route, but it's
Oh,
not
yes,
main.
but it has all the cars.
Well, no, there's a lot of.
It's now.
It's been going on for Alice has been dealing with 8 years.
Other side of the road, that was.
Yeah,
Well-
but some of these things do take that long. They really do.
But
You
you're
see,
coming out, you're still coming out.
I'm very worried
Wells
about
Way,
it,
that's
because
like
once you
it's
take
even
the
worse than
public,
Little Island.
take these children away from the main road, and they can't be seen when they're going along there, they are not safe.
No, I quite agree with you, and I think that the farmers would have to cut their hedge down so that we
You
can
have to
see
take,
them.
you have to, I mean, 'cause I don't think it's safe from Sexy's, the old Sexy's school to Sexy's school with that hedge there, with children walking along there. I do not think it's safe, but the people that are around today. This has always been my argument. You must have a fence that you can see through against the road that's safe so the children can't go on it. And the hedge must be moved back at least 4 to 5 feet to make it safe so children can be seen. Because things do happen.
I think, without prolonging the discussion, I think that's what happened. It was the millennium,
Yeah.
17 years ago,
Yeah.
and the plan came in, and it was the orchard which
That's right,
the
yes, it
man
was.
was not going to give in, and he decided they would then go down and round and up through to the other side. But that was totally out because it is not observed
No.
by the public. It would, and that was not Wedmore's.
No.
It was they put the plan because there was money available.
Yeah.
Mind you, it
Yeah.
would cost a lot of money.
Money, yeah.
Whatever you do, because if you put that cycle, you're going to have to fence the whole distance
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
the road and then the other
That's
side.
right, that's right. Double
You've got
fence.
a boundary as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it would be...
It would be nice if we get NPC to pay for
If
it.
you persuade people to put their hands in their pockets, that would be very useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Can we move on this
Yes.
one? Thank you very much. Anything else on the correspondence? The committee reports. Submission?
We haven't had a meeting, but there's been a fair bit of work done out there recently.
Can I ask that somebody gets that ivy off that wall quick enough,
Yeah.
please, because otherwise it's going to come out.
It will. It's on the list.
Facilities, allotment, footpath one? No, okay. Finance, general purposes?
We'd like a meeting first Wednesday in December, Chairman, if it's possible.
Okay,
It's
the 6th.
the 6th of December. And then we can have the budget ready for the following fortnight.
Anything on housing, yeah?
Still no update, despite chasing the last company.
They've not come back to you.
No, I'm only presuming that they're going to be attending the Neighbourhood Plan
Yeah.
meeting next week, so that
But
was
he-
their aim.
What, to come down to the
With the
village hall?
shows.
But I was hoping for some correspondence before then, actually, to
Well, yeah, okay.
Highways, car park, Brook.
No, nothing.
Steve. Fine. Oh.
I should just say about the car park, he is looking at the camera system. He mentioned he's had a couple of firms interested in looking at it, but he's got no further. So.
Right, anything planning? You've got a meeting
No,
tonight?
meeting 29th is the next meeting. Got 7 on it at the moment.
Representatives on committees, Wedmore News.
We had a meeting last week, and all is going well. Just disappointed we had to pay £540 in tax. But everything was going all right.
Play areas. Anything?
Predictable smashing of complaints that people can't access the Blackford area. I imagine those will be redirected to you very shortly.
Very kind of you.
I should send them to Steve.
No, it's Parish Council thing, isn't it? Parish Council play area, and it's them that have the agreement with the
Theale's okay, I believe. Anything on? Okay. So you reckon it's the access is going to be the major issue?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, the parents go there for their children playing in the swing park and they pick the kids up from school. So by stopping them doing one, they're stopping them doing both. Irrespective of, I mean, that's the main use the swing park gets, is a school drop-off time.
Yeah.
It's heaving your small children from the empty now, tumbleweed, blowing across the mud.
Like that?
Completely empty.
Is it really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised you will even have a play area committee in it. Because no one uses it.
But they'll have very nice shiny tarmac.
Lovely time.
Yeah. Sulk. Dennis and I attended the meeting. Hopefully you've all had sight of something. Oh, and so you went back. Cluster meeting report was good as well. Oh, no, the training meeting, the planning training meeting report we did. Training.
Oh, training. Yes, I sent the.
Yes, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I'm just saying thank you.
yeah, that was really good. That meeting.
Playing fields management, no Laura. Village halls. No,
No, nothing to report. Well, you know what's happening.
Yes, we do. Matters of report, items for the next meeting. Chairman doesn't have anything.
Just a couple of things from me, Chairman. I've had an email today from County Hall asking to hold a meeting here on the 6th of December during the afternoon to discuss the 67 bus service and an update. They had a meeting here once before, so they're asking to use the council room again for that. I don't think it'll be an issue. It's 1 till 3 or something. And no doubt somebody will be asked to attend anyway from here, so you can sort of key out. The other thing is I went to Western College last week, trying to think of ways of updating our website, make it look a bit more interesting. And they've got a very good IT department in there, and I've had a contact given to me. And I went in and spoke to their head of IT and a couple of students who were agreed to look at our website and try and come up with something flashy and make it more interesting. They're very, very keen, these two students, to do it as part of their syllabus. Yeah, they've done several councils' websites recently. So they said it's really exciting. I've come up with some ideas. I've asked the chairman to come in with me next time another meeting and we'll see how we progress it. But it should be quite interesting. And it won't cost us anything, which is quite
Members? Yes, just coming from your SALC meeting, planning, we are going to have, we've got to go digital in the new year.
Yeah,
and
I've seen that, yeah.
It's coming quickly. Now, it says some SALC grant money is available to IT for parishes, which may be relevant for planning docs in the near future. So I wonder if we could...
It's on my list of things to do to comment last. Chairman asked me to
see if we could get like a...
See if we're entitled to any money.
Well spotted.
Can you just refresh my mind about the arguments about screens and TV screens? What do we come out of table on them?
I think we did. I think this is before we thought about putting a screen up here.
Phil Busbar,
There was screen up there, or screen up there.
Phil Busbar suggested a smart TV.
Smart TV, didn't he?
He
I
said
remember
that
basically poo-pooing it.
But yeah, he did poo-poo it.
Why did I poo-poo it?
We thought we were going to see it from here.
Oh, the size, I suppose, yeah.
Just out of interest, we're looking at long distances. What's the? I mean, I know we've got a picture up there at the moment, but you could potentially. You have the committee on one side of the table, effectively, chairman at the end. You've got public participation here.
That's better.
It's not beyond what man, is it?
No.
But the smart screens that we use in school, they're the size of that wall, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not just like TV screens,
No,
they're
that's
big
right.
cinema screens.
Yes, I mean, I saw them at college last
It's
week.
just, it was always,
Yeah.
it was, because I was just thinking the size of the committee, you probably would fit them along one side and at the end, whereas you're always behind someone, so if someone's participating, I suppose this is a bit of weather display, isn't it?
82-inch screens, about £7,000.
Is it?
There you go.
Matching pair.
Projector, 400 quid, HD across the room.
Yeah, so a digital projector and then all
It would be certainly trying to
Well,
find a way to figure that out because
Yeah.
I'm not technical enough to go.
I'm just wondering if Slot would give us any advice as to
What to go for.
Do we,
yeah.
while we're on members, do we ever say thank you to Phil for his IT work?
No.
I think we ought to.
Because
He's so dedicated, he does all sorts of stuff, he monitors the website, he helps out with every sort of IT issue.
Yeah.
And we ought to say
That's
thank
what we
you.
give him a bottle for Christmas or something.
Something, you know.
There's appreciation.
A letter from the chairman and, you know, a bottle of, thank you, just something like that.
I'll find out what his tip is.
That would be helpful. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Good suggestion.
Yeah, well done.
I won't record it in minutes.
Online.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's on the
It's on the-
Yeah, see it.
Oh yeah, of course I know.
Just answer it. Just answer it.
All right.
Just press a big button and go,
Email
oh,
in the morning.
If you can just delete
Don't worry, I've already bought it.
Very sharp.
Right, thanks everybody.